My name is Dorothy Mitchell, and I'm 76 years old. I worked as a librarian for 43 years, saved every penny I could, and built a comfortable retirement for myself. I own my home, have a healthy savings account, and never needed to depend on anyone financially. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the day 6 months ago when my son Kenneth sat me down at my kitchen table, pulled out a stack of legal documents, and told me he was taking over control of my finances because I was no longer capable of managing my own money. I was sitting in the chair where I'd paid my bills for 30 years, the same chair where I'd balanced my checkbook every month without fail, the same chair where I'd managed my mortgage, my investments, and my retirement accounts, all without help from anyone. Kenneth had come over on a Tuesday morning. He'd called the day before saying he needed to discuss something important. I'd made coffee and set out cookies, thinking maybe he wanted to talk about his work or his kids. Instead, he sat down across from me with his wife Lisa and a man I'd never met before. "Mom, this is Gerald Patterson. He's an elder law attorney. I've asked him to be here for this conversation." "An attorney? Kenneth, what's going on?" "Mom, Lisa and I have been talking. We're concerned about you, about your ability to manage your financial affairs." "Concerned? Why would you be concerned? I've managed my money perfectly well for 76 years. "That's just it, Mom. You're 76, and we've noticed some things, forgetfulness, confusion, mistakes that suggest you might need help." "What mistakes? I haven't made any mistakes." Kenneth pulled out a folder. 3 months ago, you paid your electric bill twice in the same month. 2 months ago, you forgot to pay your water bill at all and got a late notice. Last month, you asked me the same question about your property taxes 3 times in 1 week. Those are minor things. Everyone makes small mistakes. They're not small mistakes when you're dealing with significant assets, Mom. You have over $400,000 in savings and investments. You have this house worth $350,000. You have a pension and Social Security. That's a lot of money to manage. And if you're starting to slip mentally. I'm not slipping mentally. I paid the electric bill twice because I forgot I'd already paid it. That's called being absent-minded, not incompetent. Mom, please don't get defensive. We're trying to help you. Lisa and I think it would be best if I took over as your power of attorney. I'd manage your accounts, pay your bills, handle your investments. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. I don't want you to manage my accounts. They're my accounts, my money, I earned it. I know you did, and I'm not trying to take it away from you. I'm trying to protect it. Mom, what if you forget to pay something important? What if you make a bad investment decision? What if someone takes advantage of you? No one's taking advantage of me. Kenneth, I appreciate your concern, but this is ridiculous. I'm perfectly capable of managing my own finances. That's when the attorney spoke up. "Mrs. Mitchell, I understand this is difficult, but your son has valid concerns. As we age, our cognitive abilities decline. It's a natural process. And having someone you trust manage your financial affairs can protect you from making mistakes that could jeopardize your security." I haven't made any mistakes that jeopardize my security. Not yet, but Kenneth has told me about several incidents that suggest you may be experiencing early cognitive decline. The repeated bill payments, the forgotten bills, the repetitive questions. These are warning signs, Mrs. Mitchell. Warning signs of what? Being human, having occasional memory lapses. That doesn't mean I need my son to take over my life. Kenneth's voice softened. "Mom, I'm not taking over your life, just your finances. You can still live here, make your own decisions, do whatever you want. I just handle the money stuff. Make sure bills get paid. Make sure your investments are sound. Make sure no one scams you. I don't need you to protect me from scammers. I'm not some senile old woman who can't recognize a con artist." I know you're not senile, but Mom, you're getting older. And it's better to have these protections in place now, while you're still healthy, than to wait until something goes wrong. Nothing is going to go wrong. Lisa spoke for the first time. "Dorothy, we're just trying to help. Kenneth worries about you constantly. He worries that you're vulnerable, that something bad could happen. If he had power of attorney, he could protect you, keep you safe. Safe from what? I've been taking care of myself for 76 years. Kenneth pulled out more documents. Mom, I've already drawn up the power of attorney papers. Gerald has reviewed them. They're completely standard. All you have to do is sign them, and I'll take care of everything from there. You've already drawn them up, without even asking me first. Because I knew you'd react like this. I knew you'd be defensive and resistant. But Mom, this is the right thing to do. And deep down, you know it. I looked at the documents sitting on my kitchen table. Papers that would give my son control over every penny I'd earned, every account I'd managed, every decision I'd made about my financial future. What if I refused to sign? Gerald, the attorney, answered. That's your right, Mrs. Mitchell, but Kenneth could petition the court for guardianship, provide evidence of your declining capacity. A judge could appoint him as your legal guardian, giving him even more control than a power of attorney would. You'd take me to court. Kenneth, you'd actually take your own mother to court to take away her independence. I'd do it to protect you. Yes. If that's what it takes to keep you safe, then yes, I'd do it. I felt tears forming but refused to let them fall. I looked at my son, the boy I'd raised alone after his father died, the boy I'd worked overtime to put through college, the boy I'd sacrificed everything for, and I saw a stranger. Someone who thought I was too incompetent to manage my own life. And if I sign these papers, what happens? Your accounts would be transferred to joint accounts with me as co-owner. I'd have access to all your financial information. I'd pay your bills, manage your investments, handle everything. You'd get an allowance for daily expenses. Whatever you need, just ask and I'll make sure you get it. An allowance, like I'm a child. Like you're someone who's being taken care of. Mom, please, this is for your own good. I sat there staring at those documents. Every instinct told me to refuse, to fight, to tell Kenneth he was wrong and I was fine. But then I thought about what Gerald had said, about Kenneth petitioning for guardianship, about a court case where my son would testify that I was incompetent, where he'd bring evidence of my mistakes and forgetfulness, where a judge might decide I needed a guardian. And I realized, if I fought this, I might lose everything. Not just control of my money, but control of my life. A guardian could make me move, could make medical decisions for me, could control every aspect of my existence. At least with power of attorney, I'd still have some independence, some dignity, some control over my daily life. So I made a decision I've questioned every day since. I picked up the pen, and I signed those papers. I signed away control of my finances to my son. I gave him access to accounts I'd managed for decades. I let him take over my life. But as I signed, I didn't say what I was thinking. I didn't tell Kenneth or Lisa or Gerald what I suspected. I didn't mention that I thought this was about more than just protecting me. I stayed quiet, and I watched, and I waited to see what my son would really do with my money. Before I tell you what I discovered, before I reveal what Kenneth was really after, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Click it. Then smash that like button, because this story is about to show you how financial abuse can hide behind concern and how staying quiet can sometimes be the smartest strategy. Turn on those notifications, that bell icon, because you need to hear what I found out about my son's real intentions and what I did when I realized he was stealing from me. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. What city, what state, what country? I want to know who's here with me today, because what happened after I signed those papers, what I discovered about Kenneth's plans for my money, it's going to shock you. It shocked me, and it changed everything about how I saw my son. Now let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you about my relationship with Kenneth and how we got to that moment at my kitchen table where I signed away control of everything I'd worked for. To understand what happened, you need to understand my relationship with Kenneth and how money has always been a complicated issue between us. My husband Thomas died when Kenneth was 12 years old. Heart attack. Sudden, devastating. I was 41 years old, suddenly a widow with a preteen son to raise alone. Thomas had been a teacher, We'd never had much money. When he died, there was a small life insurance policy, $50,000, and that was it. No savings, no investments, just that insurance money and my salary as a librarian. I used that insurance money carefully. I paid off our mortgage so Kenneth and I would always have a home. I put the rest in a college fund for Kenneth, and I lived frugally, saving every penny I could from my librarian salary. Kenneth was a good kid, smart, responsible. He did well in school, got into a good university, and I used that college fund to pay for his education. He graduated with a degree in business, got a good job at a marketing firm, and seemed to be doing well. When Kenneth was 30, he married Lisa. She came from money. Her father owned a successful construction company. They had a big wedding that Lisa's parents paid for. They bought a nice house in an expensive neighborhood. They had 2 kids and put them in private schools. On the surface, Kenneth seemed financially successful. He drove a nice car, wore expensive clothes, took vacations to exotic places, and I was proud of him, proud that my son had done so well for himself. But over the years, I started noticing things, small things that didn't quite add up. When Kenneth was 35, he asked to borrow $10,000, said he needed it for a business investment that would pay off big. I lent him the money. He promised to pay me back within 6 months. He never did. When I asked about it a year later, he acted like he didn't remember borrowing it, said he thought it had been a gift. Mom, you never asked for it back. I assumed you were helping me out. Kenneth, you said it was a loan. You said you'd pay me back. I said that. I don't remember saying that. But Mom, if you need the money, I can probably pay you back over time. A couple $100 a month. He never paid back a single dollar. When Kenneth was 40, he asked if I'd co-sign a loan for him. Said the bank needed a co-signer for a business expansion opportunity. What kind of business expansion? It's complicated, a marketing venture. But Mom, the bank just wants someone with good credit to co-sign. You won't have to pay anything. I just need your signature. Something told me not to do it, but he was my son. He'd assured me I wouldn't be responsible for the payments, so I co-signed. 6 months later, I got a call from the bank. Kenneth had missed 3 payments on the loan. They were coming after me for the money. I ended up paying $8,000 to clear the loan before it destroyed my credit. When I confronted Kenneth, he apologized profusely. Mom, I'm so sorry. Business has been rough. I'll pay you back every penny. He never did. When Kenneth was 43, just 3 years ago, he asked if I could help him out with his mortgage. Said he was having cash flow problems. How much do you need? Just $2,000 a month for a few months, until I get some big contracts in. Mom, I'll pay you back as soon as business picks up. Kenneth, how are you having money problems? You have a good job. Lisa works. You should be fine. It's just temporary. We overextended ourselves a bit, but it's fine. We just need a little help getting through a rough patch. Against my better judgment, I helped him. I sent him $2,000 a month for 6 months, $12,000 total. He never paid back a penny, and when I stopped sending money, he got angry. Mom, I thought you said you'd help until business picked up. I said I'd help for a few months. It's been 6 months. Kenneth, you're a grown man with a family. You can't keep depending on your mother for financial help. I'm not depending on you. I'm just going through a rough time. I thought you'd want to help your son. I do want to help, but Kenneth, I've given you over $30,000 over the years. Money you've never paid back. I can't keep doing that. I have my own retirement to think about. $30,000. Mom, that's barely anything compared to what you have. How do you know what I have? I know you have a healthy retirement fund. You own your house outright. You have pensions and Social Security. You're more than comfortable. Would it kill you to help your son out? That conversation had troubled me, not just because Kenneth felt entitled to my money, but because he seemed to know details about my finances that I'd never shared with him. A year ago, things escalated. Kenneth asked me for $50,000. For what? An investment opportunity. Mom, I can triple this money in 6 months, and I'll give you half the profits. Kenneth, no, I'm not lending you $50,000. But Mom, this is a sure thing, and you'd make money too. If it's such a sure thing, get a bank loan, or ask Lisa's parents for the money. Lisa's parents are tapped out, we've already borrowed from them, and banks want collateral. Mom, please, this could change everything for us. My answer is no. He'd been angry, really angry. He'd left my house that day barely speaking to me, and for weeks afterward he'd been cold and distant. Eventually, he'd apologized, said he'd been stressed about money and had taken it out on me, said he understood I couldn't help him. But I'd noticed after that conversation, Kenneth had started asking me questions about my finances, about my accounts, about how I managed my money. Mom, do you have your investments in stocks or bonds? A mix of both. Who manages them for you? I manage them myself. Yourself? Mom, that's risky. You should have a professional financial advisor. I've been managing my investments for 30 years. I've done just fine. But Mom, at your age, you should have someone helping you, making sure you don't make costly mistakes. I'd brushed off his concern, thought he was just being overprotective. But now, sitting at my kitchen table having just signed power of attorney documents, I realized something. Kenneth's sudden concern about my financial capacity wasn't about protecting me. It was about controlling my money. After Kenneth and Lisa left with the signed documents, I sat in my kitchen feeling sick. I'd just given my son access to everything I'd worked for, every account, every investment, every penny. And I suspected, though I couldn't prove it yet, that he was going to steal from me. But I'd stayed quiet. I'd signed the papers without voicing my suspicions, because I had a plan. If Kenneth thought I was a confused old woman who didn't understand what was happening, he'd get sloppy. He'd make mistakes, and I'd catch him. So I played the role he expected. The forgetful, slightly confused elderly mother who needed help managing her affairs. And I waited to see what he would do. 2 weeks after I signed the power of attorney, Kenneth came over with new bank cards for me. Mom, I've set up new accounts. Your Social Security and pension will be deposited here. You'll use this debit card for your daily expenses. What happened to my old accounts? They're still there, but I've moved most of your savings into accounts that I manage. The money's safer that way. Safer from what? From mistakes, from scams, from anything that could jeopardize your security. Mom, you don't need to worry about any of this. I'm taking care of everything. Can I still see my account balances? Know how much I have? Of course. I'll give you monthly statements. You'll know exactly what's happening with your money. But he didn't give me monthly statements. And when I asked about them 3 weeks later, he said he'd been busy and would get them to me soon. He never did. A month after signing the papers, I went to the bank to check my accounts. I wanted to see the balances, verify that everything was where it should be. The bank teller looked up my information. I'm sorry, Mrs. Mitchell, but I can't give you that information. These accounts are now under Kenneth Mitchell's control. You'll need to ask him for account details. But it's my money. I should be able to see my own accounts. I understand your frustration, but according to the power of attorney on file, Kenneth Mitchell has full authority over these accounts. I can't provide information without his permission. I left the bank feeling trapped. My son had effectively locked me out of my own finances. I couldn't see my balances, couldn't access my accounts, couldn't know what was happening with money I'd spent a lifetime earning. That night, I called Kenneth. I went to the bank today. They wouldn't let me see my account balances. That's just bank policy, Mom, for security reasons, but you don't need to go to the bank. If you want to know your balances, just ask me. Okay, I'm asking. What are my balances? I don't have the exact numbers right now. I'm not home, but everything's fine. Your money's all there, safe and sound. When can you give me the exact numbers? I'll send you a statement this weekend. Don't worry about it, Mom. I've got everything under control. He didn't send a statement that weekend, or the next weekend, or the weekend after that. 2 months after signing the power of attorney, my property tax bill came in the mail. $4,200 due in 30 days. I called Kenneth. The property tax bill came. Should I send it to you? No need. I've already paid it. Already, but the bill just came yesterday. I pay things as soon as they're due, Mom. That's part of managing your finances properly. But the bill says it's due in 30 days. You couldn't have paid it already. I must have paid last year's taxes. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of this one too. Something felt wrong, but I didn't push it. 3 months after signing the papers, my neighbor mentioned she'd seen Kenneth at my house on a Tuesday afternoon. He was carrying boxes out to his car. I hope everything's okay. Boxes? What kind of boxes? I don't know. Maybe 3 or 4 boxes, medium-sized. I figured you were having him take stuff to storage or something. I hadn't asked Kenneth to take anything anywhere, and he hadn't mentioned coming to my house that day. I checked my house, went through my rooms looking for what might be missing. At first, I didn't notice anything. Then I went to my closet where I'd kept my important documents. The box was gone. The box where I kept decades of financial records, bank statements, investment documents, tax returns, all of it gone. I called Kenneth. Did you come to my house last Tuesday? Last Tuesday? I don't think so. Why? My neighbor said she saw you here, said you were carrying boxes to your car. Oh, right. Yes, I stopped by. Mom, you said I could pick up those old financial records. Remember, you said they were just cluttering your closet. I never said that. Yes, you did, last week. You said you wanted to clear out old paperwork. I was helping you. Kenneth, I need those documents. They're my records. Mom, you don't need records from 20 years ago. I have everything organized digitally now. The paper copies were just taking up space. I want them back. They're at my house, in storage. Mom, I promise if you ever need to see any old records, I'll get them for you. But you really don't need them cluttering your house. He'd taken my financial history, every record of every account, every investment, every transaction, and he had no intention of giving them back. That's when I knew for certain. Kenneth wasn't managing my finances to protect me. He was taking control of them for his own benefit. But I still didn't know exactly what he was doing, so I continued to stay quiet, continued to play the confused, forgetful mother who didn't notice things. And I started my own investigation, because I needed proof before I could act. I needed evidence that Kenneth was stealing from me. What I discovered over the next 3 months was worse than I could have imagined. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. After Kenneth took my financial documents, I knew I needed to be strategic. I couldn't just accuse him without proof. I needed evidence of what he was doing with my money. So I started keeping notes, writing down every conversation, every time Kenneth told me something about my finances, every inconsistency, every red flag. And I started asking questions, carefully, in a way that seemed like typical elderly confusion rather than deliberate investigation. A week after Kenneth took my documents, I called him about a letter I'd received from my insurance company. Kenneth, there's a letter here about my homeowner's insurance. It says my policy is about to lapse due to non-payment. That's impossible. I pay all your bills on time, Mom. But the letter says they haven't received payment in 3 months. Says my coverage will be canceled in 10 days if I don't pay. It's probably a mistake or a scam letter. Mom, throw it away. I'll call the insurance company and straighten it out. Should I keep the letter, just in case? No need. I said I'll handle it, don't worry about it. I kept the letter, and I also called the insurance company myself. Ma'am, according to our records, your policy lapsed 2 months ago. We sent multiple notices to Kenneth Mitchell at the address on file. What address? She gave me Kenneth's address. He'd changed my mailing address for the insurance company to his house, so I'd never see the notices. Why wasn't the insurance paid? We don't have that information. We just know payment wasn't received. Mrs. Mitchell, your house has been uninsured for 2 months. If something happened, a fire, a flood, theft, you'd have no coverage. You need to reinstate this policy immediately. How much do I owe? $2,400 for the missed payments plus $300 reinstatement fee. Total of $2,700. I didn't have $2,700 in the checking account Kenneth had given me access to. He kept only about $500 in there at any time, calling it my monthly allowance. Can I pay with a credit card? Certainly. I paid with my credit card, the one card I'd kept in my own name, the one Kenneth didn't know about because I'd never mentioned it. The card I'd been using to pay for my investigation expenses. When Kenneth came over the next day, I confronted him. Gently, confusedly, like I was just a worried old woman who didn't understand. Kenneth, I called the insurance company. They said my homeowner's policy lapsed. They said you hadn't paid it in 3 months. His face tightened. I told you I'd handle it, Mom. Why did you call them? Because I was worried. The house not being insured, that scared me. It's fine now. I paid it yesterday. Actually, I paid it with my credit card, $2,700. You paid it. Mom, why would you do that? I was handling it. By not paying it for 3 months. Kenneth, why wasn't the insurance paid? It was an oversight. I've been busy. Things fell through the cracks. It happens, Mom. Things fell through the cracks? Kenneth, you said you were managing my finances so things like this wouldn't happen. And instead, my house went uninsured for 2 months. What if there had been a fire? I would have lost everything. But there wasn't a fire. Everything's fine. And honestly, Mom, I'm a little offended that you're questioning me. I'm doing you a favor by managing your finances. The least you could do is trust me. I do trust you. I'm just concerned. Well, don't be concerned. I've got everything under control. And Mom, about that credit card, you shouldn't have a credit card. At your age, with your memory issues, you could run up debt without realizing it. I think you should give me that card. Let me manage your credit too. No, I'm keeping the credit card. Mom, be reasonable. What if you forget you've used it? What if you spend more than you realize? I've had this credit card for 20 years. I've never carried a balance. I'm keeping it. Kenneth looked angry, really angry, but he didn't push it further. He left shortly after, and I sat there knowing I'd been right. Kenneth wasn't protecting me. He was stealing from me. The insurance was just the beginning. Over the next month, I discovered more problems. My property taxes, the ones Kenneth said he'd paid, they hadn't been paid. I received a delinquency notice saying I owed $4,200 plus a $400 late fee. I called the county tax office. Ma'am, we haven't received payment for this year's property taxes. They were due 3 months ago. But my son said he paid them. We have no record of payment. Mrs. Mitchell, if these taxes aren't paid within 30 days, the county can place a lien on your property. Eventually, if the debt remains unpaid, your house could be sold at a tax sale. I felt sick. My house, the house I'd worked so hard to pay off, the house that was supposed to be my security, was at risk because Kenneth hadn't paid my property taxes. I paid them myself, $4,600 total with the late fees, on my secret credit card that Kenneth didn't know about. Then I discovered my utilities were behind. Not cut off yet, but behind. My electric bill hadn't been paid in 2 months. My gas bill was 1 month overdue. My water bill had a past due notice attached. I started paying those too, out of my secret credit card, running up debt to pay bills that Kenneth was supposed to be paying with my money. 2 months after Kenneth took control of my finances, I decided I needed to see my actual bank statements, not the summary Kenneth claimed he'd send. The real statements showing every transaction. But I couldn't access my accounts. Kenneth had locked me out, and the bank wouldn't give me information without his permission. So I got creative. I contacted a private investigator. His name was Marcus Webb. He'd worked for 30 years as a financial fraud investigator before retiring and opening a private investigation business. I'd found him through an internet search for elder financial abuse investigation. Marcus met me at a coffee shop, not at my house, where Kenneth might show up unexpectedly. "Mrs. Mitchell, tell me what's going on." I told him everything. About Kenneth pressuring me to sign power of attorney, about the unpaid bills, about the taken documents, about my suspicions that Kenneth was stealing from me. "How much money are we talking about?" "I had $437,000 in savings and investments 6 months ago, plus my house worth about $350,000, plus my pension of $2,400 a month and Social Security of $1,800 a month. Total assets of around $800,000. Marcus whistled low. "That's significant, and you signed full power of attorney." "Yes, I was afraid if I didn't, Kenneth would petition for guardianship. His lawyer suggested that was the alternative." The lawyer was probably working with Kenneth. That's a common tactic in elder financial abuse. Threaten guardianship to scare the victim into signing power of attorney voluntarily. So this is elder financial abuse. Based on what you've told me, yes. Your son appears to be using his power of attorney to steal your money. The unpaid bills, while he has full access to your accounts, that's a major red flag. He's not paying your bills because he's using your money for something else. Can you find out what he's using it for? I can try, but Mrs. Mitchell, I need to be honest with you. Investigating someone with power of attorney is tricky. Technically, he has legal authority to access your accounts. If he's moving money around, he can claim he's managing your investments. We need to prove he's using your money for his own benefit, not yours. How do we prove that? We need bank records, account statements, transaction histories, anything showing money being transferred out of your accounts and where it's going. Can you get those records? Not legally, not without your permission or a court order, but you can request them. You're the account owner. You have a right to see your own financial information. The bank won't give them to me. They said I need Kenneth's permission. Then we go around the bank. "Mrs. Mitchell, do you have any account numbers? Any information about where your money was before Kenneth took control?" I pulled out my notebook. I'd written down everything I could remember. Account numbers, bank names, investment companies, everything. Marcus studied my notes. "This is good, very good. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm going to make some calls, see what I can find out. But I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Keep acting confused. Keep playing the forgetful elderly mother. Don't let Kenneth know you're investigating him. If he realizes you're onto him, he'll cover his tracks. Make it impossible for us to prove what he's done." "I can do that." "And Mrs. Mitchell, one more thing. This investigation is going to cost money. My rate is $150 an hour plus expenses. Based on what you've told me, I estimate this will take 40-60 hours of work. Are you prepared to spend $6,000 to $9,000 to find out what your son is doing? If it proves he's stealing from me, yes, I'm prepared." "Okay, let me get started." Over the next 3 weeks, Marcus worked his investigation. He was careful, discreet, and thorough, and what he uncovered was worse than I'd feared. When Marcus called me with his findings, his voice was grim. "Mrs. Mitchell, we need to meet. In person. What I've found, you need to be sitting down when you hear this." We met at the same coffee shop. Marcus had a thick folder full of documents. "How did you get all this?" I asked, staring at the stack of papers. "I have contacts in the banking industry. People who owed me favors. What I'm about to show you isn't exactly legal evidence. We'd never be able to use it in court without proper subpoenas. But it's enough to show you what your son is doing with your money." He opened the folder. Inside were printouts of bank statements, transaction records, and wire transfer receipts. 6 months ago, you had $437,000 in various accounts. Savings, investment accounts, retirement funds. Here are the balances from the day before Kenneth took control. He showed me statements dated the day before I signed the power of attorney. Everything matched what I remembered. And here are the balances today. He showed me current statements. My heart sank. My savings account that had held $180,000 now showed $12,000. My investment account that had held $200,000 now showed $31,000. My other accounts were similarly depleted. "Where did the money go?" I whispered. "That's what I'm about to show you. Mrs. Mitchell, your son has been systematically transferring money out of your accounts into his own. Look at these transaction records." He showed me pages of transfers. $5,000 here, $10,000 there, $15,000, $20,000, over and over. Dozens of transfers over 6 months. He's been taking it slowly. Small enough amounts that you might not notice if you saw a statement, but it adds up. "Mrs. Mitchell, Kenneth has transferred approximately $325,000 from your accounts to his accounts in the past 6 months. I couldn't breathe. $325,000. Gone. Stolen by my own son. What is he using it for? That's where it gets interesting. Kenneth's in financial trouble. Serious trouble. He owes money everywhere. Credit cards, personal loans, a second mortgage on his house, and he's been using your money to pay his debts." Marcus showed me more documents. Credit card statements in Kenneth's name showing large payments from my accounts. Mortgage payment records showing my money going to his house. Loan payoff documents showing my money clearing his debts. He's not just stealing from you. He's using you as his personal ATM. Every time he has a bill he can't pay, he transfers money from your account to his. And he's been doing it for 6 months. How much debt does he have? Based on what I can find, at least $400,000. Maybe more. Mrs. Mitchell, your son is drowning financially, and he's trying to save himself by stealing your life savings. I felt tears streaming down my face. What about the bills he was supposed to be paying? My insurance, my taxes, my utilities. He hasn't paid any of them. That's why you kept getting late notices. He was supposed to use your money to pay your bills, but instead he was using it to pay his own bills. Mrs. Mitchell, your son has committed elder financial abuse. What he's doing is illegal. Can we prove it? With proper subpoenas and legal discovery, yes. Everything I've shown you can be obtained legally through the court system. But Mrs. Mitchell, you need to act fast. At the rate Kenneth's been transferring money, you'll have nothing left in 6 months. He's going to drain your accounts completely. What should I do? You need a lawyer, immediately. An elder law attorney who specializes in financial abuse. You need to revoke the power of attorney, freeze your accounts, and file charges against Kenneth. This is theft. He needs to face consequences. He's my son. I know, but Mrs. Mitchell, he's stealing your future. Every penny he takes is security you won't have. Medical care you can't afford. Housing you can't maintain. He's jeopardizing your well-being to save himself from his own bad financial decisions. That's not love. That's exploitation. If I filed charges, he could go to prison. Yes, he could, and maybe he should. Mrs. Mitchell, I've investigated dozens of elder financial abuse cases. And I'll tell you something, most victims don't press charges because the abuser is family. They forgive. They hope it won't happen again. And in almost every case, the abuse continues. The abuser takes everything, leaves the victim with nothing. Is that what you want? No. Then you need to act, before it's too late. I took the folder of documents, looked at the evidence of my son's betrayal. $325,000 stolen. My insurance unpaid, my taxes delinquent, my future being drained away while Kenneth pretended to be protecting me. Give me a few days. I need to think about what to do. Don't think too long. Every day you wait, he's taking more money. After I left the coffee shop, I sat in my car and cried. My son, the boy I'd raised alone, the boy I'd sacrificed everything for, the boy I'd put through college and helped whenever he needed it, was stealing from me. He'd looked me in the eye and told me he was protecting me, managing my money so I'd be safe. And the whole time, he was robbing me blind. I thought about what Marcus had said, about filing charges, about Kenneth going to prison. And I knew I couldn't do that. Whatever Kenneth had done, he was still my son. I couldn't send him to prison. but I also couldn't let him continue stealing from me. So I made a decision. I would confront Kenneth, but not the way he'd expect. Not as the confused, forgetful mother he thought I was. I would confront him with evidence, with proof of everything he'd done. And I would give him one chance only to make things right. And if he refused, then I'd take everything Marcus had found and go to the police. But I would try, one more time, to reach my son, to make him understand what he'd done, to give him the opportunity to be the man I'd raised him to be instead of the thief he'd become. 2 days later, I called Kenneth and asked him to come over. Told him I needed to discuss something important about my finances. He arrived looking wary, like he suspected something but couldn't quite figure out what. "What's wrong, Mom?" "Sit down, Kenneth. We need to talk." He sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd signed the power of attorney documents 6 months ago, the same table where I'd given him control of everything I'd worked for. I placed the folder Marcus had given me on the table. Kenneth's eyes went to it immediately. "What's that?" "That's proof that you've been stealing from me. Bank statements showing you've transferred $325,000 from my accounts to yours. Records showing you haven't paid my insurance, my taxes, or my utilities while spending my money on your own debts. Evidence of elder financial abuse." Kenneth's face went white. "Mom, I can explain." "No, you're going to sit there and listen. For 6 months, I've played the confused, forgetful old woman. I've pretended not to notice when bills went unpaid, when you took my financial documents, when you locked me out of my own accounts. I stayed quiet while you stole from me, but Kenneth, I wasn't confused. I was investigating, and now I have proof of everything you've done." "Mom, please." I said, "Listen, do you have any idea what you've done? You've stolen my future, my security, money I worked 43 years to save, money I plan to use for medical care, for maintaining my home, for living comfortably in my retirement. You've taken it all to pay your own debts, debts you accumulated living beyond your means. I was going to pay you back." "With what? You're drowning in $400,000 of debt. You can't even pay your own bills, let alone pay me back. Kenneth, you weren't borrowing from me. You were stealing. And you would have kept stealing until I had nothing left." Kenneth's face was red now, whether from shame or anger I couldn't tell. "You don't understand, Mom. I'm in trouble. Real trouble. I owe people money, dangerous people, if I don't pay them." "Then you should have declared bankruptcy. You should have sold your house. You should have faced the consequences of your own financial mistakes. Instead, you stole from your elderly mother." "I had no choice." "You had choices. You chose to live in an expensive house you couldn't afford. You chose to keep your kids in private schools you couldn't pay for. You chose to maintain a lifestyle that was bankrupting you. And when it all fell apart, instead of being honest and asking for help, you convinced me to give you power of attorney so you could steal from me legally. I was protecting you. No, you were stealing from me, and you would have kept stealing until I had nothing. Kenneth, my house almost went into foreclosure because you didn't pay my property taxes. My insurance lapsed. I could have lost everything because you were using my money instead of managing it like you promised." Kenneth stood up, his voice rising. "You have more money than you need. You live alone in a paid-off house. You don't need $400,000 in the bank. I'm your son, your only child. Don't I deserve something? After everything you have, can't you help me?" "I have helped you. For 30 years, I've helped you. I paid for your college. I lent you money you never paid back. I co-signed loans I ended up paying. I sent you $2,000 a month for months. I've given you over $50,000 over the years. And it's never enough. You always need more." "Because I'm struggling. Can't you see that? I'm drowning, Mom, and you're sitting on all this money, hoarding it." "Hoarding it? Kenneth, that money is my retirement, my security, my future. I'm 76 years old. What happens if I need nursing care? If I have medical emergencies? If something happens to my house? That money is supposed to protect me. It's not your inheritance, it's my safety net." "But you're not using it. It's just sitting there." "Because I'm saving it for when I need it. Kenneth, I won't always be healthy and independent. Eventually, I'll need care, expensive care, and that money will pay for it. But you don't care about that, do you? You don't care if I end up with nothing when I need it most. You just want the money now. Kenneth slammed his hand on the table. You know what? Maybe I do. Maybe I think I deserve some of that money. I'm your son, your flesh and blood, and you're acting like I'm some stranger trying to rob you. You are robbing me. That's literally what you're doing. You have power of attorney, which means you're supposed to manage my money for my benefit. Instead, you're transferring it to yourself. That's theft. That's a crime. Are you going to report me? Is that what this is about? You're going to have your own son arrested. I looked at Kenneth, really looked at him, and I saw a stranger. A man who felt entitled to money he hadn't earned, who saw his mother's savings as his personal bank account, who'd rather steal from his elderly mother than face his own financial failures. I should report you. What you've done is illegal. You've committed elder financial abuse. You could go to prison. But you won't, because I'm your son. You won't destroy my life. You're destroying mine. Kenneth, you've stolen $325,000 from me. You've put my house at risk. You've left me vulnerable. How is that not destroying my life? It's just money, Mom. It's not the same as sending me to prison. Think about what that would do to my kids, to my wife, to my life. Then think about what this has done to me, to my life. Kenneth, I trusted you. I gave you power over my finances because you were my son, and you betrayed that trust in the worst possible way. We stared at each other across the kitchen table, mother and son, but the love and trust that should have connected us was gone, replaced by anger and betrayal. So what happens now? Kenneth asked, his voice cold. Now you're going to return every penny you stole from me. You're going to transfer $325,000 back into my accounts. And then you're going to sign documents revoking your power of attorney and giving me back control of my finances. I don't have $325,000. I used it to pay debts. It's gone. Then sell your house, take out loans, figure it out. But Kenneth, if you don't return my money, I'm going to the police with this evidence, and you will go to prison for elder financial abuse. You won't do that. You're bluffing. Try me, test me, and see what happens. Kenneth, I stayed quiet for 6 months while you stole from me. I played the confused old woman so I could gather evidence. Do you really think I won't follow through? For the first time, Kenneth looked uncertain, like he was realizing his mother wasn't the easy target he'd thought. I need time. I can't come up with $325,000 immediately. You have 30 days, 1 month to return the money and revoke the power of attorney. If you don't, I go to the police. And if I do, if I return the money and give you back control, then what? Do we just pretend this never happened? No, we don't pretend. Kenneth, you've destroyed my trust. You've proven that you see me as a resource to exploit rather than a mother to respect. I don't know if our relationship can recover from that. So you're cutting me off, disowning me. I'm protecting myself from you because you've shown me that you'll steal from me given the opportunity. Kenneth, you need to leave now. You have 30 days. Don't contact me unless it's to tell me you're returning the money. Kenneth stood up, grabbed his coat, and walked to the door. But before leaving, he turned back. You're making a mistake, Mom. Family should help each other, not threaten each other. Family should respect each other, not steal from each other. Goodbye, Kenneth. He left, slamming the door behind him. And I sat at my kitchen table, shaking, wondering if I'd just lost my son forever. But also knowing I'd finally stood up for myself, finally stopped being the victim. The question was, would Kenneth return the money, or would I have to follow through on my threat and report him to the police? I had 30 days to find out. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The first week after confronting Kenneth, I heard nothing from him. No phone calls, no texts, no visits, complete silence. I tried to tell myself he was figuring out how to return the money, that he was selling assets, arranging loans, doing whatever necessary to make things right. But a darker voice in my head whispered that he was covering his tracks, preparing defenses, maybe even planning to take more money before I could stop him. 8 days after our confrontation, Lisa called me. "Dorothy, we need to talk. Can I come over?" "If this is about Kenneth and the money." "It is. Please, just let me come over. I need to explain some things you don't understand." Against my better judgment, I agreed. Lisa arrived an hour later, looking exhausted and stressed. "Dorothy, Kenneth told me what happened, about you accusing him of stealing from you." "I didn't accuse him. I showed him proof. Bank records demonstrating he transferred $325,000 from my accounts to his." "I know, and Dorothy, I need to tell you something. I didn't know about the transfers, about any of it. Kenneth handles all our finances. I thought your money was being managed properly." "You expect me to believe you had no idea your husband was stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from his mother?" "I know how it sounds, but Dorothy, Kenneth keeps me in the dark about our finances. He says it's his job to handle money, that I shouldn't worry about it. I see deposits in our account, but I assumed they were from his work bonuses or something. I didn't know they were coming from you." I studied Lisa's face, trying to determine if she was lying. She looked genuinely distressed, but she could be a good actress. "Let's say I believe you. Why are you here?" "Because I found out the truth about Kenneth's debts, about how bad things really are. Dorothy, we're not just in debt. We're on the verge of losing everything. The house, the cars, everything." "How much debt?" "Over $500,000. Kenneth has been living on credit for years, making minimum payments, robbing Peter to pay Paul. He took out a second mortgage without telling me, maxed out credit cards I didn't know about, borrowed money from loan sharks." "Loan sharks?" "Actual criminals. People who charge insane interest rates and threaten violence if you don't pay. Kenneth owes them $80,000. They've been calling, threatening to hurt him if he doesn't pay." "That's Kenneth's problem to solve, not mine." "I understand you're angry. You have every right to be. But Dorothy, Kenneth did this for us, for our family, to keep us afloat. He did it by stealing from me. Lisa, he had power of attorney. I trusted him to manage my money properly, and instead he used it to subsidize a lifestyle you couldn't afford." "I know, and I'm not excusing what he did. But Dorothy, if you go to the police, Kenneth will go to prison. Our kids will lose their father. I'll lose my husband. We'll lose the house. Everything will fall apart." "And whose fault is that? Who made the decision to steal from his elderly mother?" "Kenneth's fault, completely his fault. But Dorothy, I'm begging you, don't destroy our family over money. We'll pay you back. I promise. It'll take time, but we'll return every penny." "How? Kenneth doesn't have the money. You don't have the money. How exactly are you going to pay me back $325,000? Lisa looked down at her hands. "We'll sell the house. That should cover most of it. The rest we'll pay over time. Monthly payments, whatever you need." "Your house is mortgaged. Twice, apparently. How much equity do you have?" "Maybe $150,000, after we pay off both mortgages." "So selling your house would give me less than half of what Kenneth stole. Where does the other $175,000 come from?" "We'll get loans. We'll work extra jobs. Dorothy, we'll figure it out. Just please don't report Kenneth to the police." "Why shouldn't I? He committed a crime, a serious crime." "Because he's your son. Because those are your grandchildren who'll suffer. Dorothy, I know you're hurt and angry, but please think about the bigger picture. Think about what pressing charges will do to everyone." "I've thought about it. I've thought about how Kenneth looked me in the eye for 6 months and lied. How he pretended to be protecting me while stealing my life savings. How he left my bills unpaid so he could pay his own debts. I've thought about all of it." "And you still want to destroy him?" "I want justice. I want my money back, and I want Kenneth to face consequences for what he's done. Even if those consequences destroy 3 innocent lives. Our kids didn't do anything wrong, Dorothy. Why should they be punished?" The mention of my grandchildren hit hard. I thought about Emma and Jacob, 10 and 8 years old. Good kids. They didn't deserve to lose their father, their home, their stability because of Kenneth's crimes. But I didn't deserve to lose my life savings either. Lisa, I gave Kenneth 30 days to return the money. If he returns it and revokes the power of attorney, I won't press charges. But if he doesn't, I'm going to the police. That's not negotiable. 30 days isn't enough time. We can't sell the house and get you money in 30 days. The process takes months. Then Kenneth should have thought about that before he started stealing from me. Dorothy, please, 60 days, give us 60 days. We'll put the house on the market immediately. Start the sale process. You'll get your money, I promise. I don't trust Kenneth's promises, or yours. Then don't trust promises, trust actions. Come to our house, I'll show you the listing agreement. You can see we're serious about selling. You can track the process yourself. Dorothy, I know Kenneth betrayed you, but I'm not Kenneth. I'm trying to make this right. I looked at this woman my son had married 20 years ago. The woman who'd given me 2 grandchildren. The woman who was begging me not to destroy her family. If I give you 60 days, I need more than promises. I need legal guarantees. What kind of guarantees? A promissory note signed by both you and Kenneth, stating you owe me $325,000 plus interest, guaranteeing monthly payments if the house sale doesn't cover everything. And I want your house deed as collateral. If you default, I get the house. We can do that. I'll have a lawyer draw up the papers. And Kenneth revokes the power of attorney immediately. Today, I want control of my accounts back now, not in 60 days. Done. I'll make sure Kenneth signs the revocation papers today. And one more thing. Kenneth doesn't contact me. Doesn't call, doesn't visit, doesn't text. All communication goes through you or a lawyer. I don't want to see my son until this is resolved. I understand. Lisa left shortly after, promising to have everything arranged by the end of the week. I sat in my quiet house, wondering if I'd just made a terrible mistake. Wondering if I should have gone straight to the police instead of giving Kenneth more time. But I thought about Emma and Jacob, about 2 innocent children who'd be devastated if their father went to prison, and I hoped I'd made the right choice. 3 days later, Lisa brought me papers. A power of attorney revocation signed by Kenneth. A promissory note signed by both Lisa and Kenneth acknowledging the $325,000 debt, and a listing agreement showing their house was officially on the market. We're asking $650,000. After we pay off both mortgages, $380,000 total, we should clear about $250,000 after fees and commissions. You'll get every penny. That's still $75,000 short. We'll pay that over time, $1,500 a month. It'll take 4 years, but you'll get it all. And if you default on the payments, you get the house, but we won't default, Dorothy, I promise you that. I took the papers to a lawyer. My own lawyer this time, not one Kenneth had chosen. She reviewed everything and confirmed the documents were legally binding. Mrs. Mitchell, this promissory note is solid. If they default, you can sue for the full amount plus interest. And having the house as collateral gives you significant protection. But I have to ask, are you sure you don't want to press criminal charges? What your son did is a serious crime. I know, but his children would suffer. I can't do that to my grandchildren. I understand. But Mrs. Mitchell, be aware. If Kenneth doesn't follow through, if he tries to hide assets or file bankruptcy, this could get very messy. Sometimes the criminal justice system is the better route because it forces accountability. I'll take that risk. I signed the papers accepting Lisa's terms. 60 days to sell the house. Monthly payments after that if needed. And if they defaulted, I'd go to the police with everything Marcus had uncovered. For the next 8 weeks, I tracked the house sale obsessively. Lisa sent me weekly updates. Showings, offers, negotiations. The market was good, she said. They'd had multiple offers within the first 2 weeks. Finally, 53 days after my confrontation with Kenneth, Lisa called with news. We have a buyer, cash offer, $640,000. They want a quick closing. We can have your money in 2 weeks. How much will I receive? After paying off the mortgages and closing costs, We'll net $242,000, which leaves us $83,000 short. Dorothy, we're going to start monthly payments immediately. $1,500 a month until the debt is cleared. I'll believe it when I see the first payment. You'll see it. Dorothy, I know you don't trust us. I don't blame you. But we're going to make this right. I promise. 2 weeks later, $242,000 was deposited into my bank account. The account I'd finally regained control of after Kenneth revoked the power of attorney. I looked at my balance. Before Kenneth's theft, I'd had $437,000. He'd taken $325,000. Now I had $242,000 back. Still short by $83,000, but at least I had most of my money. The next month, Lisa sent me a check for $1,500, and the month after that, and the month after that. For 6 months, she made every payment on time. But I still hadn't seen or spoken to Kenneth. He'd honored my request to stay away, and I'd honored my agreement not to press charges. Then, 7 months after our confrontation, Emma called me, my 10-year-old granddaughter. "Grandma Dorothy, it's Emma. Can I talk to you?" "Of course, sweetheart. Is everything okay?" "Grandma, why don't you come to our house anymore? Why don't we see you? Did we do something wrong?" My heart broke. "No, honey, you didn't do anything wrong, I promise." "Then why don't you visit? Mom says you and Dad had a fight. She says you're mad at him. Grandma, can't you forgive him? I miss you." "I miss you too, sweetheart, so much." "Then come over, please. Dad says you won't come because you hate him, but you don't hate him, do you?" "I don't hate your father, Emma. Things between us are just complicated right now." "Because of money. Mom said it's about money. But Grandma, money isn't more important than family, is it?" Out of the mouths of babes, my 10-year-old granddaughter, with her simple child's logic, had just asked the question I'd been wrestling with for 7 months. Was money more important than family? No, honey, money isn't more important than family, but sometimes family hurts each other, and when that happens, it takes time to heal. How long does it take? I don't know, sometimes a long time. Grandma, I'm 10. I might be a grown-up before you and Dad stop being mad at each other. I don't want to be a grown-up before I see my grandma again. I started crying. Me neither, sweetheart, me neither. After I hung up with Emma, I sat in my quiet house and thought about my life, about the $83,000 I was still owed, about the 7 months I'd spent avoiding my son, about the grandchildren I was missing out on because of pride and anger. Kenneth had stolen from me. That was true. He'd betrayed my trust in the worst possible way. Also true. But Emma was right. Money wasn't more important than family. And I'd let money, or the loss of it, cost me 7 months with my grandchildren. I wasn't ready to forgive Kenneth. Not fully. Not yet. But maybe I could start moving in that direction. I called Lisa. "I want to see the kids. Can I take Emma and Jacob for ice cream this weekend?" Lisa's voice was thick with emotion. "Dorothy, they'd love that. They miss you so much." "I miss them too. But Lisa, I'm not ready to see Kenneth. This isn't about reconciling with him. This is about my grandchildren." "I understand. Kenneth will make himself scarce. I'll have the kids ready Saturday at 2. Saturday, I picked up Emma and Jacob. We went for ice cream. We went to the park. We talked and laughed, and I remembered why family mattered more than money. On the drive back to their house, Emma said, "Grandma, are you coming to my birthday party next month?" "Am I invited?" "Of course you're invited. Mom's doing a big party. Everyone's going to be there. You have to come." "Will your dad be there?" "Well, yeah, it's at our house. But Grandma, you can just ignore him if you're still mad. Please come. I really want you there." I thought about it. A birthday party with Kenneth there. The first time I'd seen him since our confrontation 7 months ago. Could I handle that? "I'll be there, sweetheart, I promise." Emma's birthday party was 2 weeks later. I showed up with a carefully wrapped gift, an art set Emma had been wanting, and a knot of anxiety in my stomach. Kenneth was in the backyard setting up games for the kids. When he saw me arrive, he froze. We stared at each other across the yard. Then Emma ran over and grabbed my hand. "Grandma, you came. Come see my cake. It's unicorn-themed." I let myself be pulled inside, grateful for the distraction. The party was full of Emma's friends and their parents. I chatted with other adults, watched Emma open presents, and sang happy birthday. Kenneth stayed outside with the kids for most of the party. We didn't speak, didn't even make eye contact. Until the end, when I was getting ready to leave, Kenneth approached me in the front hallway. "Mom, thank you for coming. It meant a lot to Emma." "I'm here for Emma, not for you." "I know, but still, thank you." He paused. "Mom, I want you to know I'm sorry for everything, for stealing from you, for betraying your trust, for putting you through all of this. I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know I regret it." "Do you regret it, or do you regret getting caught?" "Both, honestly, but mostly I regret hurting you. You didn't deserve that. You've been nothing but good to me my whole life, and I repaid you by stealing from you. That was wrong. Unforgivable." "Then why did you do it?" Kenneth looked down. "Because I was desperate. Because I'd made terrible financial decisions and I was too proud to admit it. Too ashamed to ask for help. So I convinced myself I was borrowing, that I'd pay you back, that you wouldn't miss the money. I told myself lies until I believed them." "You could have asked me for help, honestly, without the deception." "Would you have given me $325,000? "No, but I would have helped you figure out a real solution. Bankruptcy, debt consolidation, something legal and ethical. Kenneth, I would have helped you, but you didn't give me the chance. Because I didn't want you to know how badly I'd failed. You raised me alone, worked so hard to give me opportunities, and I squandered them. I built a life I couldn't afford and then destroyed it through my own stupidity. I couldn't face you with that truth. So you stole from me instead." "Yes, and that was worse than any failure I was trying to hide. Mom, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable, but I'm trying to make it right. The monthly payments, the restitution, I'm trying." "Lisa's been making the payments, not you." "Lisa's been making them from our joint account, but I'm working overtime, taking every extra shift, freelancing on weekends. The money's coming from my work, even if Lisa's writing the checks." "You're still $83,000 in debt to me." "I know, and you'll get every penny, even if it takes 5 years. Mom, I promise you I'll pay back every dollar I stole." I looked at my son. He'd lost weight, had dark circles under his eyes, looked older and more worn than he should at 46. "Kenneth, I don't know if we can ever go back to the way things were. The trust is broken. I can't look at you without remembering that you stole from me." "I understand, and I don't expect things to go back to the way they were. I just hope someday you can forgive me enough that we can be in the same room without you hating me." "I don't hate you. I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm disappointed, but I don't hate you." "That's something at least." Emma ran up then, interrupting our conversation. "Grandma, you're not leaving yet, are you? We haven't cut the cake." "I thought we already cut the cake." "That was the kid cake. Mom made an adult cake too, with coffee in it. Please stay for cake." I looked at Kenneth. He shrugged. "It's good cake. Mom makes it with real espresso." "Okay, I'll stay for cake." We went back inside. I ate cake with my grandchildren and their parents. We didn't talk about money or theft or betrayal. We just talked about normal things. School, sports, work. And for an hour, I remembered what it felt like to be part of my son's family. Not the matriarch whose money was being stolen. Just grandma, just family. When I left that evening, Emma hugged me tight. "Thank you for coming, Grandma. This was the best birthday because you were here." "I love you, sweetheart. I'll see you soon." "Promise." "Promise." Over the next 6 months, I started seeing Emma and Jacob regularly, once a week for ice cream or park visits. I went to Jacob's soccer games, to Emma's art show at school. I became part of their lives again. And slowly, gradually, I started talking to Kenneth again. Not about the theft, not about the money, just about normal things, his work, his kids, his life. The monthly payments continued. $1,500 every month without fail. After a year, the debt was down to $65,000. Then Kenneth got promoted at work, with a significant raise. He called me to share the news. "Mom, I got promoted, senior marketing director. It comes with a 40% raise." "Congratulations, that's wonderful." "And Mom, I want to increase the monthly payments. With the raise, we can afford to pay you $3,000 a month instead of $1,500. That'll cut the repayment time in half." "Kenneth, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Mom, I want to pay you back as fast as possible. Not because I'm worried you'll press charges. I know you're not going to do that. But because I need to make this right. For my own conscience. For my relationship with you. I need to know I've repaid my debt." "Okay, $3,000 a month." "Thank you. And Mom, one more thing. I'm in therapy. Have been for the past year. Working through my issues with money and entitlement and why I thought it was okay to steal from you. I'm trying to become a better person. The kind of person you raised me to be." "I'm glad you're doing that work, Kenneth." "Me too. I should have done it years ago, before things got so bad. But better late than never, right?" "Right." Over the next 18 months, Kenneth paid me $3,000 every month. The debt shrank steadily. $65,000, $47,000, $29,000, $11,000. And then, 2.5 years after our confrontation in my kitchen, Kenneth made the final payment. He came to my house to deliver the check in person. $11,000, the last of what he owed me. "This is it, Mom, the final payment. You're paid back in full, every penny I stole, plus interest." I took the check, looked at the amount. 2.5 years of monthly payments, hundreds of hours of overtime and freelance work, all to repay a debt he never should have created in the first place. "Thank you for following through. Thank you for giving me the chance. Mom, you could have sent me to prison. You could have destroyed my life. But you gave me the opportunity to make things right. I'll never forget that." "Kenneth, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." "Anything." "If I hadn't caught you, if I hadn't hired that investigator and confronted you with evidence, would you have ever stopped taking my money?" Kenneth was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. I'd like to think I would have. That eventually I would have come to my senses and stopped. But honestly, I don't know. I was so deep in denial, so convinced I was just borrowing, that I might have taken everything before I realized what I was doing." "That's what I thought." "Does that change anything between us?" "No, because what matters is that when you were caught, you took responsibility. You made restitution. You did the work to change. That's all anyone can ask." "So where do we go from here?" I looked at my son, the boy I'd raised alone, the man who'd stolen from me, the father working to be better. "Now we move forward. We rebuild trust slowly. We learn to be a family again. But Kenneth, things can't go back to the way they were. You'll never have access to my finances again. You'll never have power of attorney. That bridge is burned." "I understand. And Mom, I don't want access to your finances. I never want to be in a position where I could hurt you like that again." "Good, then we agree. We're family, I love you. But my finances are mine and mine alone." "Agreed." Kenneth left shortly after. I deposited the check, the final payment, and looked at my account balance. $437,000. Exactly what I'd had before Kenneth took control of my finances. I'd gotten every penny back, plus 2.5 years of interest. Financially, I was whole again. But the emotional damage, that would take longer to heal. Still, we were moving forward. Kenneth and I talked regularly now. I saw my grandchildren every week. We had family dinners, celebrated holidays together. It would never be the same as before. The innocence was gone. The absolute trust was gone. But we had something new, something built on honesty instead of deception, on accountability instead of entitlement, on hard-earned forgiveness instead of blind faith. The day my son took over my finances, I stayed quiet. I played the confused old woman while I gathered evidence. I watched him steal from me without saying a word. And that silence, that strategic patient silence, had saved me. Because if I'd confronted him immediately, without proof, he could have denied everything, could have gaslit me, could have convinced others I was confused and paranoid. But by staying quiet, by documenting everything, by building an airtight case before confronting him, I'd given myself power. The power of truth, the power of evidence, the power to demand restitution or pursue justice. My silence had been my strategy, and it had worked. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 3 years after Kenneth paid me back in full, life had settled into a new normal. I was 79 years old now, still living independently in my home, still managing my own finances carefully. Kenneth and I had rebuilt our relationship to something functional, if not fully trusting. I saw Emma and Jacob regularly. They were 13 and 11 now, growing up so fast. But then something happened that tested everything we'd rebuilt. It started with a phone call from Lisa. Her voice was shaking. "Dorothy, I need to tell you something, before you hear it from someone else." My stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" "Kenneth lost his job 2 weeks ago. The company downsized. He's been looking for work but hasn't found anything yet." "I'm sorry to hear that, but why are you calling me about it?" "Because we're in trouble again. We don't have savings. We've been living paycheck to paycheck since we sold the house. Without Kenneth's income, we can't make our mortgage payment. Can't pay the bills. Dorothy, we're going to lose everything." I felt old anger rising. "Lisa, Kenneth just finished paying me back 3 years ago. How are you already in financial trouble again?" "We're not living extravagantly. We downsized to a smaller house after we sold the big one. The kids are in public school now. We've cut back on everything. But Kenneth's salary was our main income. Without it, we can't survive." "What about your job?" "I work part-time. I only make $30,000 a year. That's not enough to cover our expenses." "Then get a full-time job. Kenneth can take any work while he looks for something in his field. You're both capable adults. Figure it out." "We're trying. But Dorothy, I'm calling because Kenneth wants to ask you for help, and I'm begging you to say no." That surprised me. "You want me to say no?" "Yes, because Dorothy, I've watched what happened last time. How Kenneth started borrowing from you, then couldn't stop. How he spiraled into stealing from you. I don't want that to happen again. If you lend us money now, Kenneth might start depending on you again, might fall back into old patterns. I'm calling to ask you not to help us, even if Kenneth begs." "Lisa, that's a strange thing to ask." "I know, but Dorothy, I've learned something over the past few years. Kenneth has an entitlement problem when it comes to you. He sees your money as a family resource rather than your personal savings. And when we're desperate, that entitlement comes back. I'm trying to protect you from that, and protect Kenneth from himself." "I appreciate you telling me, but Lisa, even if Kenneth asks, I won't lend him money. I learned that lesson." "Thank you. And Dorothy, please don't tell Kenneth I called you. Let him ask on his own. I just wanted you to be prepared." 2 days later, Kenneth called. "Mom, can I come over? I need to talk to you about something important." "Is this about money?" Silence. "Then how did you know?" "Lisa called me. She told me you lost your job." "She wasn't supposed to tell you. I wanted to tell you myself." "Well, now I know. And Kenneth, before you come over here asking for help, the answer is no. I won't lend you money." "Mom, please, just hear me out." "No, Kenneth, we've been through this. You can't depend on me every time you have financial problems. You're a grown man with a family. You need to handle this yourself." "I am handling it. I've been applying for jobs nonstop, but the job market is terrible right now. I need something to bridge the gap until I find work. Just $5,000 to cover this month's mortgage and bills. I'll pay you back as soon as I'm employed again." "No." "Mom, they're going to foreclose on our house. My kids will be homeless. Can you really stand by and let that happen?" "Your kids won't be homeless. There are programs for people facing foreclosure. Payment assistance. Loan modifications. You have options that don't involve borrowing from me. Those programs take months to get approved. We need help now. Then sell your car and buy something cheaper. Take any job you can get, retail, warehouse work, anything that brings in income. Ask Lisa to work full-time. Kenneth, there are solutions that don't involve me giving you money. You have $400,000 sitting in the bank. Would it kill you to help your son? And there it was. The entitlement Lisa had warned me about. Kenneth seeing my retirement savings as money that should be available to him whenever he needed it. Kenneth, that money is my retirement, my security. It's not a family bank account, and I will never again put myself in a position where you have access to it. So you're just going to let us lose everything, let your grandchildren suffer. I'm going to let you face the consequences of your financial decisions, just like I should have done years ago instead of constantly bailing you out. Kenneth, every time I've given you money, it's made things worse. It's prevented you from learning to manage your own finances responsibly. That's easy for you to say. You have money. You don't know what it's like to struggle. I don't know what it's like to struggle. Kenneth, I raised you alone on a librarian's salary. I worked overtime for years to pay your college tuition. I went without so you could have. Don't tell me I don't know about struggling. That was different. It wasn't different. The difference is I lived within my means. I didn't buy things I couldn't afford. I didn't spend money I didn't have. Kenneth, your financial problems are caused by your own choices, and I won't enable those bad choices by giving you more money. Fine, I get it. You won't help me. You'd rather I lose my house than give me a small loan. It's not about the house. It's about protecting both of us. If I lend you money, you'll ask for more, then more. We'll end up right back where we were 5 years ago. I can't do that again. Kenneth hung up without saying goodbye, and I sat in my quiet house wondering if I was being cruel or wise. Over the next month, Kenneth didn't call, didn't visit. Complete radio silence again, just like after our first confrontation. Emma called me once. "Grandma, are you mad at Dad again?" "We had a disagreement, honey, but it'll be okay." "He's really sad. He stays in his room a lot. Mom says it's because he can't find a job. Can you help him?" "I'm helping by letting him figure this out himself. I know that doesn't make sense to you now, but someday you'll understand. I just want my dad to be happy again." "Me too, sweetheart, me too." 6 weeks after Kenneth lost his job, Lisa called with an update. "Kenneth found work. It's not in marketing, it's warehouse management. The pay is less than he was making, but it's enough to cover our bills if I go full-time at my job." "That's good news." "It is, but Dorothy, Kenneth's angry, really angry. He says you abandoned him when he needed you most, that you chose money over your own son. He asked me to enable his bad financial habits. I said no, that's not abandonment." "I know, and Dorothy, I want you to know, you did the right thing. Kenneth needed to solve this himself. If you'd bailed him out again, he would have learned nothing. He would have kept depending on you instead of taking responsibility for his own life." "Does he see it that way?" "Not yet. Right now he just sees a mother who refused to help when he was desperate. But eventually, when he's worked this warehouse job for a while and realizes he's capable of supporting his family without your money, he'll understand." "I hope so. Dorothy, there's something else. Something I need to tell you." "What?" "Kenneth's been in therapy for the past 3 years, like he told you. But recently, his therapist told him something that upset him. She said Kenneth has deep-seated resentment toward you about money." "Resentment? About what?" "About you having money while he struggles. Kenneth sees your $400,000 in savings and feels like you're hoarding wealth that should be shared with family. His therapist says it comes from being raised by a single mother who always talked about not having enough money. Kenneth internalized a scarcity mentality, and now that you're financially comfortable, he resents that you won't share your abundance." "That's ridiculous. I worked for that money. I saved it through careful planning. Kenneth's financial problems are his own fault." "I know, and his therapist knows. But Dorothy, Kenneth feels like you owe him. Like the sacrifices you made when he was young created a debt you should pay now by helping him when he needs it. A debt. I raised him. That was my responsibility as his mother. That doesn't mean I owe him my retirement savings. I agree, but Kenneth sees it differently. And until he works through this resentment with his therapist, our relationship with you is going to keep having these blow-ups whenever money is involved. What do you want me to do about it? Nothing. Just understand that when Kenneth gets angry about money, it's not really about the money. It's about deeper issues he's working through. And Dorothy, be patient with him. He's trying to change. It just takes time. After that conversation, I thought a lot about what Lisa had said. About Kenneth's resentment, his sense of entitlement, his belief that I owed him financial support because of the sacrifices I'd made when he was young. And I realized I'd created this problem. By constantly bailing Kenneth out over the years, by lending him money I never got back, by not enforcing boundaries, I'd taught him that my money was his safety net. That no matter how badly he managed his finances, Mom would always be there to save him. I'd meant well. I'd wanted to help. But I'd actually harmed him by preventing him from learning financial responsibility. 3 months after Kenneth started his warehouse job, he called me. Mom, I want to apologize for getting angry when you wouldn't lend me money, for saying you chose money over me. That wasn't fair. Thank you for apologizing. My therapist helped me understand something. She helped me see that I've been treating you like an ATM instead of a person. That I've felt entitled to your money instead of respecting that you earned it and have the right to decide how it's used. I'm glad you're working through this, Kenneth. I'm trying, but Mom, I need to tell you something else. Something I realized recently. What? When you refused to lend me money this time, it was the best thing you could have done for me, because it forced me to figure out my own solution. I found the warehouse job. Lisa went full-time. We negotiated with our mortgage company for a payment plan. We handled it ourselves. And now I feel proud instead of ashamed. I solved my own problem instead of depending on you. I'm proud of you too. I wish I'd learned this lesson years ago, before I stole from you, before I damaged our relationship so badly. But better late than never, right? Right. Mom, I want to ask you something, and I want you to know this isn't about money. This is about our relationship. Okay. Will you have dinner with us? With me, Lisa, and the kids? I want us to be a real family again. No tension, no resentment, just family. I'd like that. Good, this Sunday? I'll cook. Nothing fancy, just burgers on the grill. And Mom, I promise we won't discuss money. We'll just be a family enjoying a meal together. That Sunday, I went to Kenneth and Lisa's house for dinner. It was the first time I'd been there in months. Emma and Jacob ran to greet me. They'd grown so much. Emma was nearly as tall as me now, shooting up in that way teenagers do. Jacob had lost his little boy roundness and was all lanky limbs. Kenneth greeted me at the door. Thanks for coming, Mom. Thanks for inviting me. We had burgers and potato salad. We talked about Emma's volleyball team and Jacob's science project. We laughed at Lisa's story about a difficult customer at work. We were just a normal family having a normal dinner. After the kids went inside to play video games, Kenneth and I sat on the back porch. Mom, I want to tell you about something that happened at work last week. What happened? One of the warehouse workers, a kid, probably 23 years old, asked me for advice. He'd gotten himself into credit card debt and didn't know how to get out. And you know what I told him? What? I told him to stop spending money he doesn't have, to cut his cards up, to live below his means until he paid off the debt. And as I was giving him this advice, I realized I'm a complete hypocrite. I'm telling this kid to do things I never did myself. You're doing them now. Am I though, Mom? Lisa and I live paycheck to paycheck. We have no emergency fund, no savings, nothing. If I lose this job, we're in trouble again. I haven't really changed. I'm just earning enough to scrape by. Then change, start saving, build an emergency fund, live below your means. Kenneth, you're 49 years old. It's not too late to develop good financial habits. I know, and I'm trying, but it's hard. All my friends live in nice houses, drive nice cars, take expensive vacations, and I'm working in a warehouse living in a modest house driving a 10-year-old car. I feel like a failure. Those friends are probably in debt, living beyond their means just like you used to. Kenneth, real wealth isn't about looking rich. It's about actually being financially secure. That's what my therapist says, but it's hard to believe when I'm surrounded by people who seem to have it all together while I'm struggling. You're not struggling. You're living within your means. That's success, not failure. Kenneth was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Mom, I need to tell you something I've never admitted to anyone." "What?" "When you caught me stealing from you, part of me was relieved. Because I'd been trapped in this cycle of debt and borrowing and lying, and I couldn't figure out how to stop. Getting caught forced me to stop, forced me to face what I was doing. And even though it was painful and embarrassing and nearly destroyed our relationship, it was the wake-up call I needed. I'm glad something good came from it." "It did, but Mom, I'm worried I haven't really learned the lesson. Because if things get bad again, if we face another financial crisis, part of me will want to come to you for help. That instinct is still there, to see you as my safety net instead of handling problems myself." "What do you want me to do about that?" "Tell me no, even if I'm truly desperate. Even if things are really bad, tell me no. Because every time you say yes, you enable the part of me that doesn't want to be responsible for myself." "I can do that." "And Mom, one more thing. I want you to promise me something." "What?" "If something happens to you, if you get sick or need care, don't hide it because you're worried about money. Use your savings. That's what they're for. Don't sacrifice your well-being trying to preserve an inheritance for me." "Kenneth, I'm serious. I don't want your money. I don't want to inherit it. I want you to use every penny living comfortably and getting good care. Promise me." "I promise." "Good, because Mom, I've spent years resenting your savings, feeling entitled to it. But I'm done with that. That money is yours. You earned it. You deserve to enjoy it. And when you're gone, whatever's left can go to Emma and Jacob's college funds. But I don't want it. I want to know I provided for my own family instead of depending on my mother's money." I hugged my son. This man who'd stolen from me, who'd betrayed my trust, who'd put me through hell, but who was genuinely trying to change. "I'm proud of you, Kenneth, for the work you're doing, for the growth, for taking responsibility." "Thanks, Mom, and I'm sorry for everything, for all the pain I caused. I know I can't undo it, but I'm trying to be better." That's all any of us can do. 2 years later, when I was 81 years old, I had a health scare. A mild stroke that left me temporarily unable to speak clearly or use my right arm. I was in the hospital for a week. Kenneth came every day, not to discuss money, not to manage my affairs, just to sit with me, hold my hand, be my son. When I was discharged, he helped me arrange home health care. Nurses who came daily to help with physical therapy and medication management. It was expensive, $4,000 a month, but I could afford it from my savings. Kenneth never suggested he should manage my money, never hinted that I should give him power of attorney. He just supported me while respecting my independence. After 3 months, I'd recovered most of my function. I could speak normally again. I had full use of my arm. The home health care visits decreased to twice a week. One evening, Kenneth stopped by to check on me. "How are you feeling, Mom?" "Better, stronger. The physical therapist says I'm doing great for someone my age." "That's wonderful. And Mom, I want to tell you, I'm proud of how you've handled this. Using your savings for good care, not trying to tough it out alone or avoid getting help because of the cost." I remembered what you told me, about using my money for my own care instead of trying to preserve it for inheritance. "Good. And Mom, Lisa and I have been talking. We want to help with your care costs." "Kenneth, no, I can afford it." "I know you can, but we want to help anyway. Not a lot. Just $500 a month. It's what we can afford from our budget. And Mom, before you refuse, hear me out. This isn't about paying you back or feeling obligated. It's about us contributing to your care because we love you, because you're our mother. Please let us do this." I looked at my son, the man who'd stolen $325,000 from me 7 years ago, who was now offering to help pay for my care with money he'd earned honestly. "Okay, if you really want to help, I accept." "Thank you, and Mom, I want you to know, this feels good. Contributing to your care instead of taking from you. Being the son who helps instead of the son who steals. It feels like I'm finally the man you raised me to be." "You are, Kenneth, you are." Now, at 81 years old, I look back on the day I signed over power of attorney to my son. The day he took control of my finances while I stayed quiet and watched him steal from me. It was the worst betrayal I'd ever experienced. It damaged our relationship in ways I'm still healing from. But it was also, in a strange way, a gift, because it forced both of us to change. It forced Kenneth to face his financial irresponsibility and entitlement. It forced me to set boundaries and stop enabling his bad choices. The day my son took over my finances, I stayed quiet, not because I was confused or incapable, but because I was strategic. I gathered evidence. I built my case. And when the time was right, I confronted him with the truth. That strategic silence saved me. It gave me the power to demand restitution, to force accountability, to protect myself while giving Kenneth the chance to make things right. Could I have handled it differently? Gone to the police immediately? Maybe. But then Kenneth would be a convicted felon. My grandchildren would have grown up visiting their father in prison. Our family would have been destroyed. Instead, by staying quiet and then offering Kenneth a chance at redemption, I gave us all the possibility of healing. It was painful. It took years, but we rebuilt our relationship into something stronger than before. Kenneth still works at the warehouse. He and Lisa still live modestly. They have a small emergency fund now, $10,000, and they're adding to it monthly. They're finally living within their means and building real financial security. Emma is 16 now, working her first job and learning to save money. Jacob is 14, showing an interest in business and economics. They're learning financial responsibility from their parents' mistakes, learning what not to do. As for me, I still have my savings, still live independently, still manage my own finances, and I'll never again give anyone power of attorney or access to my accounts. I learned that financial independence is worth protecting. That family love doesn't mean unlimited access to money. That sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. The day my son took over my finances, I stayed quiet. But my silence wasn't weakness. It was strategy. It was patience. It was the quiet strength of a woman who'd survived loss and hardship and wasn't about to be defeated by her own son. And in the end, that quiet strength saved us both. It saved my finances and forced Kenneth to save himself. Money had nearly destroyed our family. But learning to handle money properly, learning about boundaries and responsibility and consequences, had ultimately made us stronger. Kenneth visits twice a week now. We have dinner together, talk about normal things, enjoy being family without the shadow of financial abuse hanging over us. Is our relationship perfect? No, there's still scar tissue, still moments when I remember what he did and feel that old hurt. But we're family, imperfect, damaged, but healing, moving forward together instead of being torn apart by money and betrayal. And that's worth more than any amount in my bank account. The day my son took over my finances, I stayed quiet, but I didn't stay silent forever. And when I finally spoke, when I confronted Kenneth with evidence and demanded accountability, everything changed. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stay quiet and gather your strength. And sometimes the bravest thing is to speak up and demand justice. I did both, and it saved my life, my savings, and ultimately my relationship with my son. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.